Good
Happy
morning.
Wednesday, everybody. I
Yeah.
got it right, Nick. It's Wednesday.
Yes. Yeah, it is right. It is Wednesday, and we're coming to you with a special early edition of CF Weekly. So earlier, much earlier for Nikki here. So he's awake, which is and he's on the show, which is mission accomplished. And yeah, we have some great special guests here, but for this week's show. But Nikki, what's going on in your neck of the woods? Give us a little pre-show banter, as we say.
Well, first off, all our West Coast fans, this is way early for you guys. For those of you that show up, thank you very much. I out of the RV again, right? So we are in Glenwood Springs. Me and the missus are in Glenwood Springs this week doing some remote stuff. And we were talking, I need to find better lighting. You can't see my eyes. I look like somebody punched me in the face.
Well, hopefully not. But I think it's good enough for now. But you could always improve your mobile show, I guess, right?
Yep. Well, this is the last trip of the year, so I don't have to worry about it again until next year. But absolutely. How about yourself, buddy? What's going on?
Nothing too much. Just kind of enjoying the weather. Doing a quick little trip. This tail end of this week and the weekend, and last little trip before kids go back to school. So. Other than that, nothing too crazy, and just trying to stay up to speed on all this AI stuff as well. So,
well, hold on, you're bearing a lead there. Where are you going?
We're going to Hilton Head Island, so we can sit next to the tropical depression sitting next to there right now. So,
gonna go somewhere tropical to get rained on, and lash yourself.
May not be the best experience, but we're hopeful, right? So it's too late to cancel now. So anyway, there we go. But yeah, that's kind of like what's going on in my neck of the woods. Are we ready to bring on our guest?
Well, I mean, hold on. So first, you got some big conferences to announce, which I'm sure we'll do again.
Oh yes,
show right.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, if you're in the scene here, you should check out VMware Explore. I believe that's August 25th through 28th in Las Vegas. That's also the home of Spring One, the Spring One conference that runs in parallel and connected to Explore. So if you're into the Spring community, if you're into the Tanzu community, Cloud Foundry community, or just general VMware community, you should check out those conferences. It's always a blast. We also have Cloud Foundry Day Europe this year in Frankfurt. That is early October. I think it's October 7th, if I remember correctly. But yeah, if you're in that area, you should check it out. We actually, I'll be there at least with the show. One of our guests will be there as well, with a dedicated session as well. So if you like this show, you may want to go check out more there at Cloud Foundry Day as well.
So jealous. I'm not going to be able to make it this year, but yeah. I will be. I've got OSS Summit EU and AI Day EU coming up. So August 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th for each one of those shows. So I'll be doing some talks there. So anybody that's over in Europe, you want to come see my pretty little face, feel free to get some tickets and go over to OSS Summit and AI Day. And that's what I got going this month.
Nice. Sounds fun. Anything AI Day has got to be fun, right?
Oh, it's. I mean, everything's AI. I mean, know this better than anyway, Nick. Everything is AI now.
Yeah.
And then I should have another announcement. Speaking of podcast, I'll have another announcement here probably in the next week or two. So we'll bring that up.
All right. Well, I'm waiting.
Well, it's all about building anticipation. I'm not just going to give it to you. You're going to make you wait a little bit and wonder.
Yeah, you should keep tuning in to see what Nikki's announcement is going to be in the next week or two. So yeah, watch all our episodes, like and subscribe. Thanks. All right. Yep. All right. Without further ado, let's bring on our guest here. We'll bring on friends of the pod. We have David Zinzian and V Körbes. Y'all know DMZ. He's been on the show many times and has his own sub series into the DMZ. So this will be another one of those added to that playlist there. But V, welcome to the show. I think a longtime listener, but a first time caller into the show, I think, and happy to have you on. So great to see you.
Yeah, this is fun. I think we all hung out in multiple situations before, but first time coming to this show in particular.
Yep. I hurt DMZ's feeling in the green room when we were talking because I got to see V. I love V. She's one of my favorite security people in the world. And DMZ was like, "Oh, no, I love you too, buddy. But I see you more than I get to see V now."
Oh yes, yeah, and it's important to remember everybody. So, which reminds me, Nikki, I did not realize you are vacationing in my hometown. So my boat was just cleaned, and if the storm doesn't keep us on shore, we will have to go out and explore some.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Free
Very
boat
cool.
rides. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Just text me. We'll figure it out. But yeah, very cool.
And take video of y'all going into the storm. I want to see, Nick at the top of the boat, like,
What was it? Forrest Gump?
Lieutenant Dan. Yeah.
Maybe we should not go into the storm. I don't know. Maybe just a food for thought there. I don't know.
Where's your sense of adventure?
I want to come back for more shows. I gotta figure out what this announcement's gonna be in a couple of weeks. Not Nick's at the bottom of the ocean, right? Anyway, so what the theme for this early show is coffee break or morning security coffee review. I don't know what I morning coffee and security review. If I just read the title I wrote,
it's right there.
Yeah. So we just wanted to get some latest security updates from the DMZ channel vibes, and V I think can talk forever about security in Cloud Foundry space. But I think first and foremost, V, since you're a first time guest, can you tell us about your first experience with Cloud Foundry, your first CF push, and kind of get the audience started and what's going on there?
So that's kind of embarrassing because first time I came across Cloud Foundry, it was around 2017, and I was a developer at the time. I was like writing Go. I have a Go course on YouTube. I think half of Brazil learned to write Go from my course back then. So that's what I was doing, and then I was like, okay, I need to get in on all this cloud action, Mm-hmm. And then I looked into Cloud Foundry. I looked into a bunch of stuff, and Cloud Foundry seemed quite interesting and like how it's structured and everything. But then all my friends back then were like, "Oh no, this is old stuff. You need to get into Kubernetes. Kubernetes is all the hype now. Go do Kubernetes stuff." Mm. And I mean,
you need better friends. You need better friends.
To be fair, Kubernetes needed a lot of work, so it was a good way to stay employed.
You got a good point there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I started working Kubernetes. I was doing public speaking for a while. I presented all over the world. Some people might have seen my talks somewhere or another. And then years later, I had joined VMware. I was working Kubernetes before, and then at some point, somebody who was my boss at the time was like, "Oh, hey, we need some help on the CF side. Go learn all this CF stuff." And yeah, I was already working on security at the time, and that was impressive. So that was really cool. And my first CF push was probably one of the internal mandatory trainings, CF basics, etc. But yeah, I was already familiar with how the architecture works at the time.
I think this is going to be interesting, Nick, because we've got DMZ on one side, we've got V on the other. All we really got to do is just say security one time, and then the rest of the show is just going to be them going back and forth.
Yeah, I actually plan to drop out in the next 5 minutes and come back. I don't know.
Well, if you do, some time ago, as part of KubeCon, I recorded. So this was during COVID, so you couldn't just go on stage and present a talk. So we had to do the talks remotely, and I presented this with Tabitha Sable, who's also well known in the Kubernetes security space. And we decided, you know what, let's make a little movie. So we did a time travel hacking movie on Kubernetes security, which was fun. Nick, when you hop off to let me and DMZ talk for an hour, you can watch that.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I'm going to need the link to that, V.
Yeah. Time travel. Yeah. Security.
In fact, we'll put that in the show notes, but guess what my homework is when we get off this show?
Yeah, I'll find you the link.
They always say telling stories is the easiest way to kind of, explain these complex things. And I think we've just come up with another thing to add to our list of 400 things we want to redo for our storytellings.
Yeah.
Time travel hacking movie with Cloud Foundry. Yes,
yeah.
I think that's what's missing in the ecosystem right now.
Yeah,
and if you want to
going back in time and then coming back, going back to the future, be like, we're still ahead of the game. But anyway, yeah.
I would say, and if you want to tie it into this show, you've got to make Captain Whiskerpaws the time traveler.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's that?
That is our mascot of the show. A few episodes back, I don't know, we were messing around with some AI stuff, and we had AI write about a fictional mascot for the show, and then it became a cat who sailed the high seas, talking about Cloud Foundry. My family actually adopted a new kitten not too recently as well, and then I really pushed for the Captain Whiskerpaws name for the show. So the cat has two names, Shadow and Captain Whiskerpaws, or Captain Shadow Whiskerpaws, the full name. But
that's awesome.
He may make an apparence. He's loose in the house somewhere, and he's chaos kitten energy right now. So yeah,
we need a good pirate hat for him now. We all set.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got some Chat GPT enhanced images of him off the show. They're pretty hilarious. So,
and it followed. Yeah. I do a Captain Whiskerpaws demo in the coder world as well. So, once it becomes a thing, it's a thing forever. So
I'm gonna have to get some Captain Whiskerpaws stickers, I think, for Explorer too.
I was just thinking we need some stickers, and I think both you and V will be in Germany for CF Day, and that might be a good place to have the Captain Whiskerpaws. Give me its roar out there with its 3 or 4 R's coming out, or whatever you want to have the term be this year.
Yeah, nice.
So V, I'm going to be over in your neck of the woods. Could you make it to Amsterdam in the end of August, or?
Maybe. Send me the dates and everything, and I'll look into it.
Sounds good.
Which one is this? Is this the OSS or the AI one?
So they're both. It's OSS Summit first, and then it's AI Day right after that. So OSS
it's
is
together.
2 days.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Send me the links, and I'll try to stop by.
Cool. All right, security.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So many security things.
Yep.
Yeah. What's new in the security scene, I guess?
Well, I think like AI is a big topic, and Nikki, you were mentioning earlier one of the things that caught your attention. It's interesting to see the history, because AI, it's not that it's a new thing. I mean, I not to say my age or anything, but I studied AI a long time ago, and it was a thing before even I studied it. So I think the idea that that we're finding new novel ways of doing things with it now, and actually having it find vulnerabilities and find code and analyze code, and I actually think it's kind of an interesting story. I think it'd be funny to dig into some with the use of AI development tools, and if you think about AI finding vulnerabilities, well, how does it do that? And then how do we prevent the same sort of hallucination of AI helping you code introducing vulnerabilities? So it's like you get AI to help you write code that has vulnerabilities, because it's based upon learning all the Git repos in the world, which we know those are the most secure repos in the world. So the code it's helping you write isn't necessarily the strictest and most secure code. Now we have AI finding vulnerabilities, and I guess this is that first step of AI replacing your SOC and your frontline people watching for vulnerabilities. I think, and we might even start seeing it. The apps that we run for our customers run for our stuff. The amount of logs coming out of those, and the chance of AI. I think that we've barely even started looking at how we can actually go beyond discovery of them. And Nikki, I think you were mentioning the Google one earlier.
Yeah. So it was DeepSeek. So Google DeepSeek AI just found, I think it was CVE. Here, let me look. 6965, which is a SQLite vulnerability. So it's reported as being the first time that AI has found and stopped a vulnerability, midstream. And Google has went on to state, hey, we're going to start deploying this everywhere. Now, to kind of your point there, DMZ, is, what is AI and security? I think that this is even a really good use case, because when you look at what AI is at its core, right? AI at its core is a pattern recognition system and repeat. And when we're looking at vulnerabilities, being able to see those patterns that things are hidden, I think that's something that's great for AI to go in and do. Hallucinations, but when it's just looking for patterns, I think those are pretty well defined when it comes to most vulnerabilities.
And I know, Nick, you've been really getting into AI, and definitely want to think about the fact that a lot of AI development has been the large language models, which aren't necessarily what DeepSeek is using there. It's a different, as you said, it's a language. It's understanding that language, but coding is the syntax of language. We know how to do good code, But how do you actually make that understand the languages? And it's a different way of training it. And
Right.
I'm actually excited. That to me is practical. I think that's where it's really going to get interesting, is how do we actually look at the way code is supposed to be written, the way it actually is written, and then determine, is it just optimization or is it actually a vulnerability you've introduced?
Yeah, I mean, you get to looking into that if you've got an agent, especially with agents nowadays running something that can run kind of on its own and watch. I think this brings up something that is very interesting to me, which is, again, being able to go in and spot those patterns. You've got something that can read logs way faster than we can do, and being able to spot those patterns. I think it's going to be interesting to see. I know that AI security is becoming a bigger topic. It's starting to gain traction along with AI code generation. This is one of those things where I think AI could really excel because of the way it does its work, right? Let's find the pattern. Let's report the pattern. Hey, we're seeing something that matches this CVE. All we've got to do is kind of fine tune that model to start giving out directions on, how do we stop this, which is, I think, is what Google DeepSeek did with this vulnerability.
Do y'all know what kind of, like, how do the tooling they use works? Like, what was the process of, like, AI identifying that vulnerability?
I don't off the top of my head. I saw this in passing. I read the article. We can put the article where this came out in the show notes. But yeah, now you're asking me to understand things, V, that I don't understand.
Yeah, I guess the nerd in me, I'm already like, oh, how did they do it? How, like,
It's
just
all
trying to
magic.
figure it out. Yeah.
I know I've heard a
Yeah,
couple different stories. Is if you look at there's a combination of tools. Let's say, this is tied to the DARPA's AI Cyber Challenge, which DARPA actually has done some really interesting things. That they're actually doing this AI challenge here at DEF CON, which is, surprisingly, we're doing our timing this week. It is this week. All my friends, I'm sure you got a couple of friends who are off to Vegas. Hopefully we can get some people in Europe to brave the transition into the United States, and they can survive a journey into and out of Vegas safely. But it goes back to, like, I think the cyber challenge happened, what was it, like almost 10 years ago, it seems like now, at DEF CON, where they actually had, racks of computers doing CTF against each other. And this is the next logical progression. I'm really curious where they'll go with the AI cyber challenge this year, because the tools are so much better. But they're very purpose driven. So, and I think that the way this event, the one that was done from the one you mentioned, Nikki, is tied to looking at the actual analysis of the coding itself. But I maybe I'm reading the wrong one. There have been a couple articles around using AI recently. A friend of mine actually just released his own AI thing, which I was going to share the link to it, but it's not working in the Office VPN here. So I will. Oh, here it is. It's in the SOC side. Actually analyzing SOC data. But I think there's a different side to looking at code, because it's looking for patterns in security. And if you look at the CVE that was identified, where was that summer CVE? It was actually too many windows open. I can't talk about it there. Anyway, I'll just keep talking. But no, I think it's interesting to look at the way that there you go, DeepSeek one. So, and you have to remember, also part of this is hype. They're also, it's like name CVEs. They're trying to get their name out there about doing these things. But the article doesn't really get into how they analyzed it. It's more leans into what they're doing, and the actual vulnerability itself. I'm not sure, V, if you had a chance to read the SQLite vulnerability.
I took a quick look, but not in detail.
Yeah, I think
But yeah, no, go ahead.
I think there's definitely some interesting ideas here. Like the AI tools that we work with around here are more about enabling companies to use AI. We're starting to look at how do you actually build it into products. And I think this will be an interesting view into, like, say teams that produce tools to build applications. Well, what have we done? It's a question that's been asked before. What are you doing as my partner to make sure the code I'm using is safe? And for many years, it's been, we're making sure it's up to date. We have here's the details of what we know about insecurity about it. We're actually going to start having better visibility on those things. But I think it's worth adding. I had a conversation with a team over the application catalog about, since they consume a lot of open source updates, how do you look at who's committing the code? How do you look at where they're at, and the trends of not just the code, but the people are putting the code in. Where else are they committing the patterns across that? It's a great use of AI to build a model of is my code secure? And I'm really excited about where that's going.
Well, and I think it also is a little bit of a paradigm shift in what we talk about AI. Most of the things that we're talking about AI right now are that they're code generation. They're understanding your code. This gives the idea and kind of the forethought of maybe agents doing something outside of just, that pre-release. They're doing something post-release, right? When we start looking at, what they're, the new term AI stack, this could be one of those things that gets added to the AI stack, multi-model AIs or multi-agents running at the same time. You've got one to help generate code, one to write test, one to document, one to scan for vulnerabilities before you release as part of, that security stack. But now we're talking about things that can be running in production at the same time. This agent could be watching your code, watching all the logs that are coming in, and forewarn you of where it sees something that might be troublesome.
I think something really, really interesting about where this is going is we've had some, and I'll put a link here. So this is the NIST AI risk management framework. So this basically tells you, okay, if you are using AI for whatever it is, speech recognition, like, any random tasks, how to make sure you're doing that safely. And then there's a bunch of stuff they talk about here. On the link to the Google blog, if you click around, you end up on a risks page where they kind of talk about these risks as well. And I'll put the link here too. So like risks from using AI tools is something that, even though it's a new field and a lot of people are not familiar with these things yet, but this has been talked about to some extent. And there is some like community knowledge of what using AI safely looks like. But I think it's really interesting what you're saying, that as a next step, can we do, for example, risk analysis using AI tools? Can we do internal pen tests using AI tools? Can we, try to exploit our own platforms using AI and then fix anything it finds? And that's going to be interesting. But I feel like that is the optimistic side of the coin. And we also have the other side, which is if to do like, image generation, speech recognition, whatever, we ended up with this entire NIST risk management framework. Imagine the risk management framework to manage the risk of a security AI tool that is made to hack into your own system. So that's going to be a fun nightmare to navigate. Certainly interesting, but making that thing safe, like if I have an agent whose job is to hack me, how do I make sure it behaves? Because it's going to be very, very dangerous potentially.
This takes chaos engineering to the next level. We had chaos engineering. Thank you Netflix and the team for bringing that to the world where you have your infrastructure, you have your app, but let's break it and see how well it responds. Now we're going to take and make one of those agents actually semi-intelligent. I wouldn't say, it has a larger set of things it can do than just turning off a pod or changing a router, those sort of things. It can actually go after the code and the functions. And I was listening to a podcast this morning as I was driving in around a tool that can actually scan your WSDL for your API documentation. And it intentionally searches, like if you have all these WSDLs around the world of all these APIs, it'll like go out and search all of them and look for unauthenticated API calls that can expose PHI or PII data. So basically,
And here's the thing. I was recently made aware of that there are people in the world who haven't watched the Terminator movies. I have literally, I have friends, American, my age, who haven't watched the Terminator movies. And I was like, how? So to those of you who haven't watched the Terminator, this is how humanity ends. This is the AI that takes over the world.
Who does V sound like right now? Who does V sound like about Skynet? This is why we're kindred spirits. That was my big warning.
Well, on a good note, I did while we're kind of chatting there, I kind of reread the blog post to kind of highlight kind of what was interesting about that, and it reminded me because again, I listen to Waste Made podcasts, and just keep up on Cloud Foundry Weekly is a lot of work because y'all have so much content. But what they did over Big Sleep is they actually did threat intelligence. They discovered that there is going to be a CVE discovered in SQLite somewhere in this kind of arbitrary part of the code, based upon patterns of vulnerabilities that have been discovered over the past X amount of time. So it was using threat intelligence of activity happening in the world, and then the data of what exploits have been found in packages over the last, say, year or two or whatever, And through that, it analyzed the probability of where a vulnerability is. And that's how they found it. So this is us using AI to predict the fact that the Terminator is going to come, and we're going to actually prevent it with AI.
And this is the Skynet was formed in some random part of the SQLite code base, and this is how humanity ends, right?
Well, I feel like
Skynet was actually birthed in Nick's data center, right? So the data center is where it begins.
I gotta shut it all down, guys.
They had Clippy, and they just wanted to make Clippy smarter, and it's like auto completion also works for exploiting, everything in the world. So there you go.
Well, I think it's an interesting step, because as we get to this whole agentic, the whole MCP conversation comes up. And I was sharing a podcast of it was Application Security Weekly. It had Sandy Carell from Forrester on, and I was sharing that with some folks who were, I love meeting with Sandy and talking to her. She has some really insightful things around developer enablement and those sort of things. But they were getting down that path of it just dropped on my head, but too many things. Oh darn! I hate it when that happens. I had this beautiful thread lined up, and all of a sudden, it's just like, nope, you're gonna forget it.
It looked like you're on a roll there.
It was a good one. I can tell you, it was a great thought, and it'll come back to me as we keep talking. So we'll just keep talking, but it'll come back.
You mentioned something there that I do want to bring up, right? So there's MCP that's coming in, which is going to be the bridge. Then go ahead before you lose it again.
No, the whole agentic side, because I got down the thread of Sandy's, I think, all the things she posted about developer stuff. But no, the whole agentic side, think about and V, this is great. Think about what's the number one way people are compromising things is through incorrect configuration, incorrect permissions, the ability to access accounts. Now we have a computer code that says, hey, I'm part of this system. I offer these services, and authenticate in to have access, so that the whole authorization authentication story we're redoing for systems doing it on our behalf to the systems we use. So pictures, there's an MCP written for Delta Airlines, and every time I use my app, it just talks, because it knows me, it knows why I travel, and knows why I want things. It just handles my bookings for me. Now I've got my own agent booking for me. Well, we have supply chain concerns. That there's some interesting banking ones I've noticed recently that if you consider some banks outsource or other business, you always outsource your services. Now that agent itself is your weak point. What happens when you start having this authorization role tied to back channel communications happening on your behalf, but no one is tracking them? Transactions are happening, things are being bought, things are being sold, you're adding services, removing services.
And I mean, when you're asking ChatGPT, define entropy or something silly like that, and it hallucinates an answer that it absolutely makes no sense, you can see that it hallucinated the answer, and okay, but if one agent hallucinates something while talking to another agent in the back end, you never see it, you never know where it went wrong or how, you just know that suddenly, hey, Skynet took over the world.
And that's part of the interesting point. And Nick, you're playing with this more than I am, but this is where agents gets very, very, I don't want to say risky, because there's a lot of things that when we're looking at the use cases coming up with agents and what agents can do with MCP, the ability to go in and do some of these things outside of the human value, right? Outside of the human verification is both exciting and scary. It's exciting because we're seeing things like we just talked about, where it went in and found a vulnerability was going to be discovered, and here it is. But like all things, those things can be weaponized. They can be weaponized and used for evil. So it's going to be very interesting, because we talk a lot about AI security and how to use safe AI. To me right now, AI is just another tool right up until it becomes autonomous. And autonomous, just so many good use cases, but you do have to find a way to put boundaries and isolate those agents to stop doing some of those things that you're talking about, DMZ, where they can go out. I mean, we all saw there was the airline that got sued because AI gave a customer wrong information, and the airline ended up having to pay because they assumed liability for that agent or that AI, which wasn't even an agent yet. What does that mean later? Right? When agents are starting to do things autonomously, who picks up the legality? Who picks up the source for that?
A big problem there is just how non-deterministic AI is, like the large language models in general. Because, for example, if we go back 30 years and it's like, oh, you add what you call the what's this called in English? The
quotes.
Like,
Quotes,
yeah,
yeah.
you do some quotes in whatever you're inputting in your database, and that messes up with the SQL. You get SQL injection, entire hell breaks loose. Okay, but you know what happened. You can look at the logs. You can trace back. Okay, what was the chain of events that led to this thing happen? When it happened the first time, sure, it was a surprise, but you could figure out how that worked. Now, imagine what does this kind of an exception look like in a large language model world? So, for example, maybe I ask my AI, hey, how do I cook brisket? And it just gives me an answer. But maybe I ask, yo, how's the brisket made? Or like maybe I change my language structure. The language model loops around in a different path. It spits an entire hallucination. It chain reacts into a bunch of weird behavior that shouldn't happen. And it's like, at least back then, you could trace back the individual steps and understand what happened. But now in this large language model world, it's very non-deterministic, at least to my eyes. You can't easily trace back to, okay, what actually happened. And I feel like, especially agents that rely on large language models, that's going to be a whole can of worms that it's going to be very hard to understand when weird things start to happen. Why did they happen? How do we fix it? How do we safeguard? Yeah, it's
And
very
who
Wild
watches
West.
the agents, right? When you've got agents talking to agents, and they're doing things faster than our visual or our mind can keep up with. How do you guard the agents?
And they
And the only
don't
way is
log,
agents guarding agents, right?
and they don't log their train of thought. Let's say, like if you ask an AI model, hey, how did you get from this question to this answer? You can't get the mechanics. Yeah.
And even if you did log it, the amount of logs generated, I think, would make today's logs look small. And it's massive. We're talking, large organizations, we're talking terabytes of logs a day, more than anything can actually process. And these large models, it's even more it's doing. Now I was gonna add to your story, V, of looking at the recipe. Now picture they've got an Optimus. I'm not gonna say that the more than the brand on that, but if they had that in their kitchen cooking it for them, based upon the answer, you might have different things cooked. One might be cooking something that might, blow up in your oven. One might be cooking something they actually could eat later.
But I like the concept of the agents in like the security center, and and in a lot of these podcasts I listen to, there's this notion that like people will be like managers of agents. Like, like the future knowledge worker will be, you'll have, however many thousands of agents at your disposal type of thing. And they'll all be running on Cloud Foundry, by the way. But
of course, yeah.
Yes, right. I got to tie it back in somehow.
I think what's had the another formal pivot concept with that is agents. I think we're all kind of going the path that autonomous by their own. There's huge potential, but there's also huge potential for when it breaks, it causes more work than needed. So realistically, it should be something where you pair with it, where, it can process a lot of data, but you have that professional who's, looking through it, so say you're running a SOC AI tool where it's receiving millions and millions of events and it's helping you analyze and categorize and work on them, but it's not actually doing all of it. You might have another agent doing things, but then, eventually, that person might be out of the loop. But I think we need to still have a paired model where it's just another member of the team versus an autonomous on its own. I'm just going to do things without any input or output.
I don't think you can get away from that, DMZ, right? When we're looking at AI and when it's coming up, the AI human partnership has to be there. AI can't be creative. All it can do is find patterns and repeat back to you what those patterns are, or try what it believes based on, ranking what the best pattern is. You're going to have a human to both be creative, to tell AI what good looks like, because going back to the LLMs are out there. We talk about private AI, we talk about potentially training your own model on your own code, but in reality, that's not really, it's not feasible, right? When we look at these large language models, when we look at code generation, there's so much code out there. It would take your company, you'd have to train it on millions of lines of code. You're going to have to use one of those pre-established LLMs, but you can fine tune that to your code, or you can limit the agent, say everything that you know, but you're only going to apply it to this. And I think that's where it really comes in, is making sure that you fine tune it correctly and that you put big limits on it. For example, like we're talking about in security, you can go out and you can report back to me what the code does, but you're not allowed to go take any action, right? It's going to take a human to come in and say, thanks for the information, I'll act on it. but using the AI to do something at a speed that humans just can't do right now.
Well, actually, go ahead, V. Yeah.
Sorry, this reminds me, what was the situation like? There was like this back in the Cold War, there was this alert that, hey, the World War III broke out. Do you want to nuke your enemies? And then some guy sitting in a bunker was like, nah, not today. And that's why we avoided nuclear chaos. I'm just thinking, okay, that's going to happen again, isn't it?
Well, let's circle this back around on what do we see the benefit of our Cloud Foundry world and our users in that space, and I think that there are people coming to market with tools to help reduce the noise of CVEs, reduce the noise of, because just like logs and events and security things happening, there's many, and both Nick and Nikki, you've both worked in large organizations. You've been to the place where you have thousands of systems out there running, and you have a security team that runs their monthly or weekly scan and says, hey, we've got this list on our spreadsheet for you of the 2 million lines that you need to answer for next week's scan. Right? I mean, that's a common thing. I'm sure you're having flashbacks and don't want me to bring it up again. But that's a great use of AI, you would think, because there's a lot of people coming to the market saying, hey, we're going to help you distill the noise and find those things that are really important. We're going to add the KEV and EPSS score, and going to help minimize that. And there's some things that we can't fully get into here, but I think that the conversation on vulnerabilities we need to make that easier so folks can focus on these bigger problems we're talking about AI. But I think there's some interesting things we could really talk about of how could we, and it's actually an open thing to all the listeners who are here. And if we're on Cloud Foundry, we're running things for large customers, where could we actually use AI? And I'm thinking Logregator. That's a great place. We have a massive amount of logs coming out of the system. We have, maybe authentication, or there are some interesting things that I think the V and I can't really dive into depth of what we're thinking about. I'd love to kind of, hear from y'all or the community back. If we have any listeners, I'm not even on YouTube because I can't from the office here see if anyone's chatting today. But where do we think AI that we could actually use it in the security side of our product? And Nick or Nikki or V, I'm not sure how much we can really get into, but I think we could speculate on things we've seen in books that sound pretty cool that be neat if it was in reality. But
well, I think you brought up a great one, which is just being able to pour through all those logs. There's systems written out there, but AI, again, having that pattern recognition. One of the things that scares me, this was a stat that I brought up, when we were in the green room, but we're looking at a 46% increase in 2025 of 0-day CVEs that are coming out. Now with AI, there's the good side of this. We're democratizing development. We're making the citizen developer a thing, but we can also apply that towards the bad side. Are we going to start seeing a rise of CVEs as more and more people who may not be code experts are using AI to actually do bad, nefarious things? Are they going to use, AI knows about all the CVEs. Can they come up with new CVEs using AI? And maybe they're not the best hacker in the world, but now AI is enabling that. What are we going to see in the growth of CVEs? So this is almost a self-compounding problem, right? When you look at it for that reason.
Well, think about, it's not just CVEs in, like, say you're going to grab, in a Bitnami container, and you're going to grab that container, you're going to build up your application on top of it. This is where the large machine learning type of AI that's really helpful is you have millions of containers. And every week there's new ones being built, but on average, many people stick with a version, they'll stick with the latest or whatever. So it's not just a CVE and say they grabbed a Debian image or whatever it might be, so they could run a Go app on it. Well, that's cool. Well, what are all those things that are installed on that image that might be at risk because of the things that might happen at the code layer? And this is where the machine might look at, everyone's focused for years on the criticals and highs because they're the ones that are easily exploited. But if you take 2 or 3 lows and 5 mediums and 1 high, you might actually be able to chain those together and attack the actual system itself. This is where the AI is going to, I think, really analyze these things. Now, that risk comes to containers. And I think there was an announcement last week from the Bitnami team of they've actually worked to reduce the size of their containers. They removed a lot of those things that weren't necessary. And they dropped down to really small number of CVEs to, 1, reduce that big scope, but 2, just make it easier to consume and easier to update and know that you have just what's needed for those hardening. So I think that there's the way we've been doing things of slowly making containers smaller and smaller is also going to help. And we're going to start seeing that in other places as well, with the way the stacks and build packs and things going Cloud Foundry. I would totally expect to see that trend continue in the Cloud Foundry world too.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and Nick, this is a question to you. I mean, you also got to look at it's not just the AI itself, but when you look at the interfaces into AI, like open AI and things of that nature, what are what are the vulnerabilities that may be coming into those products, which could impact? I mean, you really start looking at this mushroom cloud of possibilities of what could happen there. But I would like your take on like open AI. I mean, how are you keeping track of things that might be coming with open AI and how you interact with different models?
Well, I mean, there's some things too where like you could have the concept of like introducing a webhook before a call, and like routing to something like a PHI or some kind of data scrubber or some kind of like guard, like a guard LLM in front of the call to help regulate data going in and out, that type of thing. Another thing too that we talked about, I had a thought on of like we're starting, last week we had a pretty in-depth show on Tanzu Hub and starting to see like log analysis and things going on in there. And like, kind of future thoughts. This is just me speculating, but like if we're starting to get all the logs now in a central place, from these foundations, maybe we could use some agents or some models to like look for known CVE patterns too, to scan the actual app logs as well, or something like that too. And
right.
we're already starting to see some of the Spring Health repository stuff go in there too as well into Hub. So maybe those are all good areas of to focus in. And then we have to like the Bitnami level, like we have a lot of those those image what's going on in those images, and we're tracking that. And then we have the build pack stuff too. So we're gonna have a lot of data to kind of maybe tie it all together to help the overall story. But yeah, I mean, I think at any angle is, whether you're looking at it, there's security at every angle, and on both sides. So I think if anything, I've decided that being in the security field is definitely a solid path forward, because we're gonna need more and more security people to help track all these things for sure. But yeah.
And tracking is an interesting story. Go ahead, V.
Yeah, I want to say a few words about what Nikki was saying about like the democratization of black hatting, let's say. I think there's two like very different ways to approach them that might be interesting, and I haven't seen them discussed much yet. So the thing with, let's say, people who are underqualified for doing this kind of work suddenly having access to it because of AI, it is a problem, but I don't see it as a very deep problem, because nowadays defense in depth is a concept that everybody has picked up and everybody understands, or at least everybody should, which means one vulnerability is not going to do it, because this vulnerability is going to be under a firewall and an ephemeral workloads, and you have like layers and layers and layers of defense to do one thing. So I feel like in 2025, to do like successful actual attacks that cause damage, you need to chain multiple of those things together. And you can tell an AI, hey, scan 100 million Docker files and find one that's going to have some opening that it can exploit. The AI can do that, but the AI is not going to have the architectural knowledge of like, okay, there's the Docker file, and then there's the network configuration, and then there's the firewall, and then there's the prod, staging, dev, segmentation of this specific company, and how do I get to actual valuable customer data, etc. I feel like you have to change so much stuff that making each individual element work is not so much the big difficulty. The big difficulty is connecting all those dots. And this is something we talk about a lot with our customers in regards to compliance, which is you can have any one product in your stack that is fully secure, fully compliant, has all the stamps from the NIST and whatever it is, but how do you connect that one thing to the whole rest of your stack? Like, okay, maybe this one thing is using the FIPS encryption and TLS and everything, but it needs to talk to a bunch of shit in the rest of your platform. And are you sure you're following all those guidelines in the rest of your platform? So we struggle to do this on the defensive side. And on the defensive side, we have access to all the information. We know how the platform is structured and architected, and all the, we have access to stuff, we can change it. So as an attacker, I feel like if you're not extremely qualified, AI is not really going to help you. It might help with, let's say that the low-hanging scams kind of a thing, and like a system that's already very unsafe, and you just break a window with AI and now you're in. But for like really solid enterprise setups, like the kind that we deal with here, I don't see that as that much of an added threat.
Well,
the other side,
I will say you said two things there that I think were very important. One was, the ephemeral workloads. So I think that's going to become even more important because you can't hack what doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see that become even more important, not only in the production workloads, but also the development side, being able to be ephemeral from a development side. You look at the LastPass breach that happened through a developer laptop. That's how they ended up costing, millions in stolen cryptocurrency. So being able to make those ephemeral and go away. So even if they are hacked, again, that defense in depth, if we can get rid of it, they may find a vulnerability, but if it disappears and new keys are generated the next day, you're having to start all over again. The other side of that is you also talked about, well, things that are insecure already, AI may help them with that. Again, I think that's where we got to kind of look at the future and say, okay, if development is getting democratized and we're seeing more development coming through AI and you're not really getting that human AI partnership, I think there is a possibility for people that aren't paying attention, maybe the smaller companies, people that don't have good defenses, they could start writing insecure code if they start relying on AI too much and they're not doing the things to teach AI what it is, which opens up that potential for democratization of black hat, right?
Well, it's already happening with supply chain weaknesses. No business, especially large enterprises, do everything on their own. They all have outsourced providers who print statements or they process the credit cards. A tool is just a tool. It can be used by anybody across it. It's like, I'd say, I got my little flipper here. Everyone's like, oh my God, you're a hacker. You're going to break into things. But to really use a flipper, you have to know, well, what am I attacking? Oh, I'm going to go through an office. I need to have RFID cards. Well, how do I get the RFID cards? I have to go in and get the RFID cards. Remember that scene in Hackers where the guy would go through and scan all the things. A tool is just a tool like AI. It can help you, but we're also can use AI to defend it. And we want to make sure we, just thinking of this conversation around the NIST side of things and the documentation of that. You gotta remember, even companies are struggling. How do we even approve usage of AI? And you'd asked Nick earlier, what's the newest things on various models? How do you look through the models, look through things? Imagine these already overwhelmed security teams. They're already trying to process millions of CVs across hundreds of thousands, if not millions of systems. Now they have to keep track of dozens of ever-growing models and ever-changing models, and can we use it? Can we not use it? And they're looking at it from a security point of view, a legal point of view, a financial point of view. If someone just uses a tool, does that mean that the company is liable for across all of our usage of tools? But are we going to run DeepSeek in our environment? Is it going to query our database and send it back to some other place? The concerns of consuming and using it either on-prem or in the cloud. How do we free up those security teams to look at that in depth when no one, as you mentioned earlier, V, they don't log. They're not showing what they're doing. We have no way of evaluating them.
Yeah, and something that's very cool as well that ties into what you're saying is I think there's a lot we can do with AI to help things stay secure, stay compliant. For example, we were just looking the other day internally, we're doing some internal reviews of various compliance frameworks. So, for example, the application secure development STIG is one that we were just doing a review. And there's tens, dozens of items there that are basically when you log in, does your application show you the last time you logged in, like the timestamp? So oh, I didn't log in on Sunday, but it says that I did. So, that's a security feature. And then when you log out, does it confirm that you're logged out? And just very simple stuff like that. But when you need to confirm, okay, are we following these regulations for every application across the board in multiple different languages and multiple microservices for our entire code base? I feel like this is something AI could help a lot. And especially on the vibe coding, you can write in secure code. Sure, but we can also, there's a bunch of random stuff that vibe coding can come up with that is dangerous. But also on the defensive side, we have very clear, STIGs and risk management frameworks, et cetera, that say exactly the things we should look for to mitigate any big potential dangers. So we can, on the flip side, let developers write poor code with their vibe coding, insecure, whatever stuff, and we can just follow up with our, security sweep afterwards and have an AI say, hey, the vulnerability number 1, 2, 3, 4 of this specific NIST STIG for your specific database, you're not following this thing. If we can have AI that does this, one, I'm going to be out of a job, but two, that things are going to be very secure.
I don't think that you would be out of a job. I think this is the same thing that goes on with citizen development, right? AI is going to replace all the developers. I don't think that's true. It is going to change how developers develop. And I think it will change how security people look at security. Again, we still need human judgment and validation. AI does not know good from bad. It just knows the patterns it recognizes. So you're going to have a human to do that. But I think it will change your job in the fact, again, we've got tools that go out and look at logs today, but I still don't think they have the capabilities that AI does to instantly recognize those patterns and report back. But who's going to make the call on what to do with that? AI can make recommendations. If you set up AI correctly and you put boundaries around it, it can make the recommendations, but it can't actually take those actions unless you allow it to. So I don't think, I think there's a lot of fear around AI is going to take our jobs. It's like robotics. It's like cloud. Everybody said the data center was dead when cloud came in. Didn't kill the data center. It changed the way people did things, right? Robotics didn't kill manufacturing. It changed the way people did things, but
well, I will say I sit next to a mainframe person here, so the mainframes are still alive and kicking really well.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But thinking of all this, I do want to. We're getting close to the top of the hour. I want to make sure we don't forget the opportunity. But I want to point out that I will be Explore. I think y'all mentioned Explore earlier on your intro. So I'm actually having a panel at Explore where we're going to invite. We have an analyst. We have some firms that consult into the financial services. There's some people from financial services coming and join us, and we're going to be talking all about this, security, compliance, and AI conversation. So basically, if you're enjoying this, I want to just pitch myself to come to Explore and come join my panel. And if you are one of our customers or you're in the CF community and you represent somebody who would have an interesting story there, I have one more slot in my panel. We're looking for somebody.
Ooh.
As you can tell, I'm very opinionated on this. So
yeah.
I thought your opinions were too reasonable, Nikki. I was expecting something more outlandish.
Well, it's been fun. You should go back and watch the history of me and Nick, because when we first started the whole AI talk, I was very much on the, has anybody heard of Skynet? I posted some stuff on LinkedIn about, Sarah Connor tried to warn us about what was going to happen and nobody listened. But as we start getting more and more into it, there are a lot of huge benefits there, but there's also, great power, great responsibility, all that jazz. You have to set it up correctly. We're going to see this evolution of the AI stack happen. We're going to start seeing more and more models come into the workflows, and what those models can do are going to be, if set up correctly, should be scoped and limited. But we're still figuring that stuff out. And back to the point, when we start talking autonomous agents, they're going to go out. They have the ability to do things on their own without us really interfering. But how do we watch that? Well, they're doing things so fast. The only way is agents watching agents. So how do we scope that, right? It's kind of that fox in the chicken house thing.
It feels to me like you're trying to figure out, how do we fit in the old, Asimov, laws of robotics into our new models? How do we have it do no harm? How do we have it, not harm others if it's not getting, but still protect itself, and how do we prevent? And actually, here's something for since our Terminator tends to be our thing here. What if Terminator was basically just a hallucination from AI? So AI was just hallucinating the potential future of what it could be, and it's just a story it came up with that's completely false. So I throw that out as a possible idea too.
Did DMZ just come up with Terminator 11?
It never happened.
It comes back to Bill and Ted. They come out of the phone booth and they're like,
"Don't worry, Captain Whisker Paws will save us all."
Yes. Yeah.
So we have our episode. We have our Cloud Foundry episode figured out for the time traveling Captain Whiskers. We're gonna have Bill and Ted join it, and we're gonna run into Sarah Connors, who's gonna warn us about a hallucination.
Don't believe the AI.
That's right.
No argument there.
Love everything about this.
Quick shout out. Shout out. I don't know. I don't speak English. Quick announcement. On CF Day Frankfurt, I have a talk. It's going to be in October. And the talk's going to be basically about why CF is great for security and compliance, while other solutions are not. So I will be snarky and hopefully for people learning about CF security, CF compliance, what's great about it, how to approach it. Hopefully that's going to be a fun discussion.
And there you go, folks. Full circle. She went from, I want to learn CF. No, I'm going to go to Kubernetes, to why CF is better and other things aren't. Love it.
Yes.
We've completed the story.
That's right.
And
Exactly.
there's a lot of AI agent talk in the middle.
So we have talked a lot about AI, but we didn't really talk too much about CF security and compliance. I'm not sure how long we all can go today. You know, as you said, we could just talk for hours about this stuff. Is it worth coming and circling back and having a little bit less AI, and we can have a little CF conversation about maybe a prelude to what you're going to talk about? If we can kind of, because I personally, you know, I'm weird. I think these are really interesting conversations. The idea of, you know, again, this is when I first really, when you had me first on the show, I talked about my first time with Cloud Foundry. The potential of I think of where we're going can help just, it can totally unlock organizations. The idea that you have these tools that are built into it. So I mean, I'm not sure if we have enough time to really get into some of these compliance conversations that you know, V and I and a bunch of others have been having recently. But if you are open, we'll keep on talking.
Well, I think we still got a few minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
Give us a little story.
Yeah, give us a little taste. Give us a little taste, DMZ.
Well, I don't want to. It really is V's to shine here, because I mean, V is. I think none of this would have happened if V and I hadn't been thrown together. We worked together in the Tanzu world for a little bit. But when we became part of the Broadcom world, and we realized that Tanzu, like, we lost all VMware security. We was like, oh my gosh, we got to do all this stuff, and that's really kind of where we started really collaborating. I think on a continuous basis since then. But one of the things we've worked on, though, as we kind of highlighted earlier, was the idea that, you know, we're looking at, you know, it's not just when you say Cloud Foundry, it minimizes the amount of things that go into. It's like when you say Kubernetes, like, oh, cool, it's Kubernetes. Well, it's actually a lot of projects. There's a lot of things that go into making it work. And if you're looking at compliance, it's not, you know, we've talked a lot for the last, decade plus, around, you know, the ephemeral containers, the repaving, the stem cells, the whole way that Cloud Foundry works. But when it comes down to it, when you're doing compliance, you have to look at all the pieces, and that's where I think V has really been focusing a lot, is all those pieces. You know, there's databases in it, there's the build services, there's the, you know, the cloud controller, there's all these different pieces, and they all have technology requirements that fit under various compliance things. And we've really been focusing on NIST a lot, because the world, no matter who you are, even PCI is based on NIST. We were surprised when we recognized the fact that, like, the FFIEC, the financial regulators for the United States, they're moving away from their IT testing. They're moving toward a NIST-based structure. All the U.S. federal, a lot of international is going toward NIST. There are a few things I'd love for them to get away from. I think FIPS is a useless standard when it comes to encryption, but that's a whole different conversation to have. But the idea that of what V's been going to is really understanding all these pieces that make up, you know, a Cloud Foundry environment, and even some of those things that are in the Tanzu specified version of it. You know, the ops manager side, the other tools, they're applications. So if they're applications and we're going to assess them, we have to say, well, does it meet, say, the NIST's, you know, application security requirements? You know, all those things. And V, I'll let you dive into some of the details.
Yeah, I feel like, to me, what CF does better than other platforms, and I'll explain what this means, is how homogeneity appears in this platform. What are the things that are always the same everywhere, and what are the things that actually change everywhere? So a very classic example is CF is known for security, it has a lot of security features. At this point, I don't know what are the security features in OSS versus Tanzu. It's all mixed together in my head, but there's a lot of security features there. And I have this story split into like 3 different pillars. So one pillar is, because workloads are homogeneous in CF. It's like you don't configure each application to work in an entirely different way with a different build pack and a different stem cell. No, you have stem cells, you have build packs, they are uniform. The variation among workloads is tiny. And that makes it so that you can have a lot of security features in the platform that are going to apply to every workload, because the workloads are necessarily uniform. That's why you can do CF push everywhere instead of, you know, doing the whole chaotic mess you do with Kubernetes. because there's an enforced uniformity. So that makes it so that you can apply security features. For example, if you have a Java build pack, suddenly you have a new security feature in your Java build pack, it's going to apply to all of your Java applications. So that's one area where homogeneity is interesting. Something we're working on right now, for example, is we want a full CV story. So across the entire stack, your build packs, stem cells, staff components themselves, basically everything we ship to a customer. We want to have triage and Cyclone DX, like all the triage status and everything as part of CV triage. We want to have all of that across the board. So this leverages a different kind of homogeneity. It's a homogeneity in our internal process. So that's not something every company using CF is going to be able to replicate, but CF helps because it enforces homogeneity in the workloads. And then when we get to compliance, it's homogeneity in a different place. And in this case, it's homogeneity in the fact that, again, the applications are all very uniform. If we have a platform and it's the same platform everywhere, there's homogeneity there. And especially with Tanzu, because there's the open source stuff, but then we provide a lot more stuff that usually a customer would have to buy from many different vendors. But basically, as we make the whole stack more homogeneous, we can provide a compliance solution that also applies like wholesale across the board for an entire thing. So basically, one thing we're doing is we're taking for example, the NIST full enclave controls. That's like 2,000 compliance controls, and that is just kind of the first node of the tree. It then expands into more as you dive in, and we're kind of doing a full pass for our entire platform off this entire control set. And again, leveraging homogeneity, it's going to apply to basically everybody using this platform. And of course, CF disadvantages, you can do something similar for CF, not to the breadth that we're doing here. But again, I think, I guess what I'm trying to get at, if I switch from talking positive to talking negative, to me, the problem with Kubernetes is it's too flexible. And that's why people praise it. It's like, oh, you can make your own operator to do your own stuff. And every app can use a different container and different configurations, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is a bad thing. We don't want flexibility for security. You want flexibility for prototyping. But when you want a really solid, closed down, enterprise grade, secure platform, you don't want flexibility. You want uniformity. And I think CF enforces that in a way that is not too restrictive, but just restrictive enough to keep things in check. And to me, that is the sweet spot. That's why I fully converted from Kubernetes to CF, because it's like, yes, CF's doing this precisely right. In Kubernetes, you can never, herd all these cats. And yeah, I'm not going to talk about specific vendors, but yeah.
Well, I'd say
art. That's my point.
I think there's two things. So one's a question for you guys. Maybe you can answer this, or maybe you can't. We did the Tanzu Hub episode last week. Is this something that y'all are doing with security that you're going to be able to build into Hub so that people can see it and it'll be visible in that single pane of glass?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes me even more excited.
Yeah. I was just telling Nick in the beginning of the call, like, oh, I'm not sure all the things I can say on a public podcast, because like every time we do a customer presentation, there's like 3 pages of disclaimers of legal stuff. I don't know how much exactly we can say, but yes, we're trying to basically take all the security, CV, compliance, everything information we have, shove it right in your face. If you're using Hub knows every workload, every tile, everything you have running all across your system, and we kind of want to tie everything together. And again, not to say too much before the right time, but in ways we haven't seen anybody in the industry do this before. So it's really, really exciting. And it's only because of CF having the architecture it has that this is possible.
That's awesome. I think that's going to make Hub even that much more valuable when it comes in, which it's already one of my favorite features to come out of CF in a long time. The other thing is back to opinionated versus flexible. I used to tell this story all the time that CF is like Apple and Kubernetes is like Android. There's pros and cons to both sides. If you want something that just kind of works, that works together, and that, those components have all been vetted, that's CF. That's the Apple side of this. If you want a whole bunch of flexibility, but you don't know that everything works together, you've got to manage it. That's Kubernetes. Both have good use cases, but I would say I think there's a reason that we don't see, as many CVEs within the Apple ecosystem as we see in others. There's something to be said for opinionated systems.
And just imagine, not from the consumer side, but from the developer side, if you have an application for Android and you have an application for Apple, when you roll out an update, how much easier it is to just, make sure this works on all iPhones versus make sure this works on who the hell knows every device that's out there.
Yep.
To me, this is a huge point of CF. It's so much easier to update everything, bump everything, make sure everything is up to latest. Which, like, it's not even possible to do it in the same scale on for example, Kubernetes. You'd have to go and update every single thing 1 billion times, and it's going to take you a year. In CF, it's stuff that you type a couple commands and it just rolls it out across the board.
Yep. Yeah, this is I mentioned earlier, the idea that we have, there's people out in the world who have millions of lines in spreadsheets. They're literally every week going through and managing that. That's not going away. No matter who we work with, they're going to still have the Apple and the Android both in their environment. But we can at least help them take the stuff that they work with us and say, here's the answers to those questions. You go focus on other things. You have more time now to do more of that real security work. We're talking about the AI security.
Yep.
Let's take the burden off of those questions, off of our shared customers. Let's figure out how they can, maybe we can inspire the rest of the industry to do this also, so we can stop having, the CVE triage. We won't need AI to help us analyze that data. It's just we know the answer for it already. We can use AI for more practical, real business security, which is where we want to actually. That'd be a really interesting conversation one day. Is what is real security if we get beyond the point of worrying about what's in the platform or the things are built with. Let's focus on the real logic and the real security out there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And with all those great features that the Tanzu team's putting in, the ability to deploy, everything that's going into Hub, the ability to view and be able to recognize. I mean, you guys are knocking it out of the park. I've always said I think platforms are the way. It's the only way to make things usable with all of the tools that are getting thrown at us every single day. So kudos out to the Tanzu team for doing this. Kudos out to the security team at Tanzu as well. I'm excited to see how y'all integrate this in with Hub and what this means to the users and the platform engineers.
Yeah, we'll definitely join you back when we can actually show stuff out there, because I am super excited. It is when I'm telling the story a lot now, because it's when I joined Pivotal, I saw the potential as a security person of what you could do. Oh, hey Keith, of what you could do with the with the foundation. What the idea of a security person, all the things that you were just saying about the homogeneity, the idea that you can roll things out. I was like, wow, this is a perfect environment to really build a secure environment. And immediately going into banking customers or DoD or places like that, and like seeing how they're doing it, it's reaffirmed that through the years. But now we can actually tell that story without having me show up on site and tell it. We can actually say, here, just look for yourself, and it is beyond exciting. It's looking really nice.
Yep. Super excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. Yep. But our whole disclaimer: until it's in the product, it's not in the product.
Yes. And I think the one thing that V was talking about, the kind of the differences that CF provides, that kind of like common stack. And I think we've seen that in a lot of our customers where like CF is this approved platform, and this is the least path of resistance, or the easy path to get through the security, to be secure and release secure applications. So I think I think we're going to only continue on that path and make it even better, I guess.
Well, we've known any platform, no matter who you are selling, you need to have that internal champion, the one that says, this makes sense, I want to support it in my business, I'm going to champion for this. That was a humongous part of the Tanzu and the Cloud Foundry success, is you found that person who was like, being the evangelical person inside the company. And I strongly believe that security is one of those champions you could have. I was meeting with a customer yesterday that, as we're talking to the security teams, and when they're like, it's less risky to run our business on this platform because of X, Y, and Z reason. That's music to my ears. The idea that we've made their life easier for security. They're recognizing these things. Let's make their jobs easier, and then security becomes that champion for you. It's like,
David, we literally have a meeting with a customer later today. I'm not sure if you remember.
Oh no, yeah.
And they internally classify CF as a, let's say, the platform provides medium risk to the applications, and every other platform ever they consider high risk. So every other platform, they need to be very careful. CF, they're more like, oh yeah, we trust this. This just works. And CF is the only platform they consider medium risk as opposed to high risk.
So yeah, let's. My inspiration for everything that V and I have been working on is how can we make those security people's jobs easier? How can we make them, we're going to run pen tests, we're going to do scanning, everyone's going to find this stuff, but how can we answer? Here's the answer to all that, so you can focus on the real security of the business logic, the databases you're connected to, your third-party supply chain security risks. Let's focus on real security and not worry about these stupid CVEs anymore.
Yep.
Because CVEs are not going away. You'll never have no CVEs. It's always going to be a lot of CVEs. Every week there's new ones. We have AI discovering them for us now.
AI feels there's going to be CVEs in this code base. And it made them. So yeah, they're definitely not going away for sure.
So we got to rewrite the conversation. We've got to find a better way of just having that conversation and getting beyond the fear of, oh my God, I got 400 pages of a spreadsheet. No, let's get beyond that. And what are the real risks to the platform and the applications running on them?
Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool. Oh yeah, and then get another shout out to Keith. Thanks for joining. And I was talking with him earlier. He's updating some older labs, and he likes the newer improvements within the operations manager. How it's a lot easier to rotate certs on the platform. So
cert management and hopefully soon credential management at some point in the near year or two.
Certs are the bane of my existence. I hated certs, and thank God for Cloud Foundry for making that easier.
Oh yeah. It doesn't get any easier than just doing an update and it automatically rolls your certs for you. You shouldn't have to think about it.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Well, we are a little past time. Are there any other topics we want to cover, or are we good to wrap?
We'll come back.
Yeah,
we'll come back.
Hold on, Nick.
Yeah.
At some point, we got to get back to our jobs. We can't let DMZ keep running.
Actually, sorry. Let me just fix what I just said to make sense in context of a conversation. I'll be back.
Yeah. Good
callback,
V. Good callback.
This is where we get the Terminator memes happening. Everything's great. Okay.
V's got jokes. This is awesome.
Yeah. I'll be back. I think that's going to become a YouTube short here.
Yep.
But yeah, without, I guess I'll take a quick word for our sponsors. You should like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all you live streamers.
A quick word for our sponsors.
The like and subscribe pillow. It really helps us out. Thumbs up, subscribe, cloudfoundryweekly.com. We'll eventually be updated with all the audio podcasts of these episodes, but I have again fallen behind. So it's about a monthly drop on the audio format. It appears to be, but I'll get there one day.
Same with my show notes and putting links in there. So
maybe AI can help you with that.
Yeah,
it does already. And I'm still behind. So
yeah. Well, we're getting some help with the shorts on the show. So we're starting to make some more shorts, YouTube shorts, and then we have a couple tools that do that. But they still need a little okay, that's 95% there. Let's kind of trim this up and cut this over, and seems to work. But yeah,
still 95%. It still cuts hours out.
Oh yeah, hours and hours and hours of time.
You guys do not want to see us try to manually edit some of these videos. It's not pretty.
No.
Nope.
But don't listen. Right. Don't let me take you down the rabbit hole again. We said we're gonna save this for the next conversation.
Yep. Well, I look forward to the next one, and like you said, look for us we're on LinkedIn, we're on cloudfoundryweekly.com. We've got Nick's X, my X. So make sure you look for us. If you got any questions, reach out to us. If you got questions for V or David, let us know. We'll make sure it gets out to them. We'll get them answered. Just put the comments into the show itself, and we'll make sure they get answered for you.
Oh, 1 second here. I might be able to catch them.
Uh-oh. We're going for Captain Shadow Whisker Paws.
Oh, kitty.
Oh, that's a good-looking cat, man.
Yeah.
That's not a kitten. That's a big cat.
No, he's a little... he's grown a little bit. He's still pretty small. He's still a little powder puff. But now he's
now we watch Nick get attacked because
Whisker
Paws doesn't want to be on camera.
Are you bringing him to CF Day?
I think international travel and pets. There's things with that. I don't know.
But, bring him to CF Day.
Cats don't really travel well. I can't imagine trying to fly internationally with a cat, but so
just put him in your jacket.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe one day. All right.
All right.
All right. Well, I guess we need to close the show out. Otherwise, we'll keep talking for another 2 or 3 hours. So, do we know who? Pop quiz. How do we close the show? I'll open it up to both guests. I know one knows.
Well,
for sure.
DMZ knows. This is really a question for V. DMZ knows
Yeah.
how we close this.
I have no idea.
So we close it with a CF by. So we'll do a 3, 2, 1, and then we'll CF by, and that's how we close the show.
Nobody ever gets to the end of our shows, Nick.
Yeah, it's okay. We talk too long. Yeah.
All right.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
CF by.
CF by.